Welcome back to Math Maintenance. Today we are going to talk about multiplying and dividing decimal points. So yesterday we did adding and subtraction. Hopefully that practice sheet went okay for you and those games went okay for you as well. Today we're going to practice multiplying and dividing. We do have a page in your packet called Multiply and Divide Decimals. I'm actually going to work the first multiply problem and the first divide problem for you today. So if you have your packet handy, you could fill in those boxes with me and save yourself a step later on. So the first multiply problem says 3.2 times 4.6. I'm for a moment going to pretend like the decimal points aren't there, and I'm just going to do the problem 32 times 46. So 6 times 2 is 12, put down the 2, carry the 1. 6 times 3 is 18, plus 1 is 19. I'm moving to the next spot over, so I'm going to put a 0. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 3 is 12. Put down the 2, carry the 1. I'm going to add it up. 2 plus 0 is 2. 9 plus 8 is 17. Put down the 7, carry the 1. 1 plus 1 plus 2 is 4. 1 plus nothing is 1. So my answer to 32 times 46 is 1,472. However, my original problem said 3.2 times 4.6. Now, there's a couple of options I can do. First, I can count up the decimal points in the problem. There's 1, 2 things after the decimal point. So I know my answer, I need 2 things after the decimal point. The other thing I can do is do a rough estimate by chunking off and just looking at the whole numbers and saying, well, 3 times 4 would have been 12. And so I know my number should be a little bit bigger than 12. A number a little bit bigger than 12 would be 14. That also fits my rule of however many things total were after the decimal point. So 1, 2 things total. That's how many things have to be after the decimal point in my answer down below. Now, division is a little bit trickier because what I have to do is I have to get my divisor to be a whole number. So right now I have 5.1. I want to get that to be a whole number. I can do that by moving my decimal 1 spot to the right, and I get 51. However many spots I move my decimal in my divisor, I also need to move my decimal in my dividend. So now my problem is actually 283 divided by 51. I won't need to remember later that I moved those decimal points because I basically multiplied both numbers by 10. And so the division answer will be the same, right? 2 divided by 4 is the same as 20 divided by 40, which is the same as 200 divided by 400. So because I just multiplied both numbers by 10, I'll get the same answer. I can't do that in multiplication because 2 times 4 is not the same as 20 times 40. But in division, since I'm making equivalent division problems, I don't have to keep track of the fact that I moved that decimal. All right, now I'm thinking about 51 going into 283. Well, 50 times 5 is 250. So I can't fit another one in there because 50 times 6 would be 300. So 51 times 5 is going to be 255. And that was times 5. 5 times 51 was 255. Now I subtract. 13 minus 5 is 8. 7 minus 5 is 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. So 28. 51, I need to bring down my 0 here. I wrote my 5 a little too far to the right. So 283 divided by 51 was 5 wholes. Now I'm starting to work on after the decimal point. You'd have to look at the problem and see how many place values they want you to work out to. So if they say out to the tens, out to the hundreds, out to the thousands, you need to add zeros here to get to the place value they wanted you to get to. 51 into 280 is also going to be 5. 5 times 51 is 255. I subtract. And then I could bring down another 0 depending on how many places they want me to go out to. 5 times 51 was 255. I only have 250 this time, so I know it's going to be 4. 4 times 51 is 204. 4, 6, 4. I could keep bringing down as many zeros as place values that it wants you to go out to. So continuing to think about if it says to go to the tenths, I could have stopped here. If it says to go to the hundredths, the thousands. If it says to round to the nearest, for example, round to the nearest tenth, I would actually have to figure out the hundredths place so that I know whether this 5 stays a 5 or becomes a 6. So if it says to round to the nearest, you'll want to make sure that you are keeping track of going one place farther to make the rounding decisions about this place value. In your packet today, you have this page, which has 4 multiplication and 4 division problems. 6 multiplication and 4 division problems, and then 3 word problems down here on the bottom. I would also like you to work on this page, which is just decimal word problems. So figuring out whether you need to add, subtract, multiply, or divide, and making sure you're answering the correct question. Your game for today is a converting of decimals to fractions and fractions to decimals. So being able to go back and forth between different ways of writing the same number. Good luck.